Hello and welcome to WaveTalkers Live. My name is Chris Mattia. My amateur radio call sign is Whiskey 6 Alpha Hotel. Today we are going to be talking about activity logs and how you can log information for your deployments, for your exercises, if you're going out and you're doing POTA, if you're just taking out and operating anywhere. So we're going to step through several things. We're going to look at how to create an online form. We're going to set up how you can capture all of that data that goes into the form. We'll use a URL shortener. We'll even set up your mobile devices so you've got a one-click easy way to be able to get at the form for you, your whole team. We've got a packed episode here, so let's just get into today's episode. If you have access to Winlink, send us a Winlink check-in and let us know how you log activities. We'll put the links to all the URLs or all the different people that you should send it to. It's all of our call signs and our tactical address. We'll put that in the various chats so you can do that. At the end of the episode, we'll go ahead and map all of this. Be sure to use the standard Winlink check-in form. So the question that we really need to dive in today is, what do you need to track? And this is really going to be dependent on what your specific mission is when you go to set up however you're planning on tracking information. So what is the common things that you are likely to track? And this is related to MCOM, but it could also be pretty much anything else. Well, the first thing is if you're tracking equipment. One of the most common things that as amateur radio operators we get asked to do when we're called out to an exercise, to a deployment, is to handle checking in and checking out of gear, making sure that everything gets out to all the right places, making sure that everything comes back. What you see here is a typical exercise and the number of radios that get handed out during the exercise or during the deployment. It can be quite a bit. And when you go to track these, the traditional analog way of doing this is to use what are called T cards. They come in big packs. They look something like this. They're called T cards because they got that little extra little wings up at the top. And there's a place for you to fill out all the information for whoever you're checking out the gear to is, whether, you know, the serial number of what the radio or what the equipment is, what unit they're from, whatnot. When you get that information all filled out on the card, you usually use something like this, which is a T card holder. You basically just take each of the cards, they go into a little slot, and so when the equipment comes back in, you can just go and find the card, you can pull it out, you can check it back in. You can also use these inside of, say, the Pelican cases, so it's very easy to see what gear is out as you're packing things up. It works really, really well, but it is an entirely analog process, and it does take a little bit of extra time. The next thing that you're likely going to want to track is activities. Now, this can happen in a variety of different ways. So here, this is one of our marathons that we support. We have one of our net control operators, and they, as they're taking in all of the radio traffic, they're keeping a paper log, just writing things down. They have a quick way to be able to reference all of the information that's coming in. And depending on the number of frequencies that you're operating on, you may have multiple different net control operators. Now you've got all these different paper logs that are keeping track of lots of bits of information. And so it can be a data management nightmare to get in and try and track all of this stuff. It does work, but it takes a little bit of extra work. Another option for you is to use some digital tools. And here at our net control station, we actually have a display that's set up, and we have a spreadsheet of data that has come in. We're going to look at how you can create that. But on these typical activity forms, what you're typically going to be using is an ICS-214 form. Now, this is your typical activity log. I'll show you how to get to these and download one for yourself. The top portion of the form has a lot of administrative information about whatever the incident is, the activity that you're doing, or the event that you're supporting. Down at the bottom, though, this is the real critical information that each operator needs to be tracking for themselves. And this is the date and time and any notable activities that occur at that particular date and time. So things like, you know, departed for the incident or for the event, arrived on station, the station set up, we've been able to check in, get things working, A runner went down and the bib number is 68234, whatever those notable activities are. But this all again happens on a paper form that then has to be submitted and is part of the legal documents of that incident, of that exercise, of that event, what have you. Let me jump over real quick and you can see a place where you can download this. So if you go to our WaveTalkers website, just go to wavetalkers.com. In the upper right corner, there's a link for resources. And if you click on that, we've got a variety of different resources that are here for you. But if you come down to the bottom, there's a thing that says external resources. And we've got things like the field operations guides, your NIMS courses, ICS position task books, but there's also ICS forms. If you click on that, one of the most common ones that you're going to want is that ICS-214. You can go ahead and click on the link for the PDF and it'll download a copy for you. This is a great way. You should have copies of these in your kits anyway, so that you've got them. Let's jump back over to the slides and let's go back into our scenario here where we've got our net control station. Not only do we have our net control station that's handling the radio traffic, but with our events and exercises and deployments, we actually run a digital net control station, and that has a variety of different pieces of data, including right up here, you can see this spreadsheet, which is the data that's coming in off of this shared 214 we're going to create today. And that is mirrored on that display that's right there for the main net control station. So they can just glance up and they can see real-time data that's coming in from the field. Now, another thing you're going to need to track when you are out in the field is you're going to need to track your various operators. So this is the map for the Baker to Vegas race. Our team is going to be going out and providing support for this coming week. And so this race at stage 1 to stage 20 is 120 miles long. We have 2 different states that are represented here, multiple different counties. We have operators scattered over this entire area, and we have command centers that are located where each of the different stars are, as well as that med base location. So we need a way to be able to track all the operators that are at various different stages, with what they're doing, what notable activity they're taking. We need to have the various different command centers all be on the same page at the same time to know what activities are occurring when and where. So if something goes wrong, or if we need to take some additional action, we have an up-to-the-minute update as to what the current situation is. So one of the ways that we do this is, again, with this shared 214, we have the spreadsheet or the form is created in Google Forms, and we'll show you what that looks like here in a second. And all of the data that's collected off of that Google form then automatically gets entered into a spreadsheet that can be shared to multiple key operators that then they will have up-to-the-minute information on whatever device that they're looking at. This works unbelievably well. Now, a couple of caveats. First of all, you do have to have access to the internet for this to work. So on a major disaster, you may not have that out in the field. More than likely, your incident command post is going to have some sort of internet access that's going to be set up fairly quickly. Your EOC is likely also to have that. When you're going out and practicing this in the field for, say, marathons, races, other different activities that you're supporting, you probably are going to have access to the internet to be able to do all of this. There are some alternatives to being able to create that. So you can create a form in, say, a web-based form and use something like a mesh network to store the data. That's outside of the scope of what we're going to do today. But I want you to get a sense for how you can create this and how you can work with this. This is what our shared 214 looks like when we're doing the Baker to Vegas race. It's a really simple web-based form that has some drop-down menus so that so the operators can quickly select what they need, a couple of places to note notable activities, and a few other pieces of data. We're going to step through how to create that all in just a second. This is what those drop-down menus look like. And then the data as it comes in all automatically comes in. Each record is automatically date and time stamped. This is telling us who the operator is. This is the notable activity. And in this one, we have a stage located in here. We also include a place for people to upload an image. So if they get to a stage, they see something that's an issue, they can take a picture of it and automatically submit that as part of the form. We get all of those data all at one time. So with that, let's look. Oh, there's one more thing that you likely are going to need to track, and that is the additional information that goes along with a deployment or an exercise. This would be things like tracking your expenses for meals or other incidentals, tracking your mileage for your operators, all of those extra bits of piece of information that really help when you're having to fill out your after action reports or fill out reimbursement reports as well. So with that, we do this by calling it a shared 214. So let's build one so you can see it. So let me jump back over to here. And so what I've got set up here is I have my Google Drive. So you need a Gmail account of some kind, a Google account. And as part of that, you get a Google Drive space, which is a kind of cloud storage that's set up. You can get to it by going to drive.google.com. You sign in with your Gmail account, and it looks something like this. I have a folder that I call WaveTalkers Forms, and I keep a variety of different forms that I'm going to be creating and using for this Shared 214 for various different activities and groups that I'm working with. So we're going to go into this folder that I've created already called WaveTalkers Live episode 126, and there's nothing in the folder. So you can do this at any point inside of your Google Drive. So the way you get started by doing this is you come up here to the upper left where it says new. You give that a click. And this is where you can create new folders, Google Docs, and so forth. But one of the least used items here is called Google Forms. And this is unbelievably powerful. So we're just going to create a Google form. It'll automatically create it in that folder. It looks something like this. And for the form, I'm just going to call it my 214. Now, as soon as you click in here, it's going to automatically set the name of the file, and it's going to set it as the title here. You can give it a description. So we're going to say, use this as an activity log. You can give more specific information and directions to your operators right here if you want to. You've got some basic formatting tools. So maybe you can say, use this as we want activity log to be bolded. We'll just select that and make it bolded. You can kind of format that, provide the additional instructions that you need to for your operators right there. Down here, this is where you're going to start adding your questions. And so the first question that you really want to know is who is submitting the form. So you could ask people to log in their call sign, but that's something that your operator then has to be able to manually type in. And one of the challenges that you face when you're dealing with a variety of different operators all entering data is you want to streamline the collection of that data so that people are able to submit something and the text shows up exactly the same. This will help you in your data management later on when you're going to try and sort the information, because you could have an operator that types in their call sign in all uppercase, all lowercase. They could decide to put a slash in something else. They could start mixing up different bits of data, and it can be tricky to manage that. So instead of doing that, we'll oftentimes assign a tactical call sign for each operator. And these may be for the different stages that they're located at. It could be in an aid station that they're located at. They might be aid station golf operator A or operator B, something like that. So, but by creating this, we're going to create this instead of a short answer. We'll come over here to the right, and we're going to set this as a drop-down menu. So you have a variety of different ways you can format each question in your form. So I usually start off with a drop-down menu. And as soon as you create that, you get these options here. So I'm just going to create aid station Alpha, and we'll make aid station Bravo and aid station Charlie. You can create as many of these as you need. Let's say that you wanted Charlie to be up above. As you move over the edge of this, you get the little grabber handle and the little plus sign. So I can change the order as to where these all show up. So maybe you need to add another person and add that in there. Maybe you want one that says net control. And instead of them being down at the bottom, you're going to move that net control station up to the top. So you create the order that you want people to fill the information in, and it's in that drop down. Now, with each form field, you can come down here and you can say whether or not it's required or not. So if an operator opens the form and they need to fill it out, if you check this little radio switch here, you can slide it over to required. They are required to select what their tactical address is. Strongly suggest doing that for the key pieces of information that you need. And in this case, it's the tactical address as well as the notable activity. Now, if you've got a situation where at aid station alpha you have 2 or 3 different operators, then you may want to add a new question. You do this over here. You just click the little plus sign, and maybe this is a place where you want them to add their call sign. And instead of being a multiple choice, you can leave that to be a short answer. That's just enough space for them to type in what their call sign is. Then your key piece of information is the tactical address, and your call sign is kind of additional information that they can go ahead and fill out. We can leave this as required or not. I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign. I'm going to add another question. I want this to be, because it's my 214, I want this to be notable activities. Now, for a notable activity, I want to give the operators a little more space to be able to fill in some information. Maybe they got to describe some situation that's going on. So instead of using a short answer, I'm going to leave this set to a paragraph, and that gives them a little more space to be able to type in a little more information there. I'm also going to make this field required. So right now, an operator who comes on, they have to select what their tactical address is, and then they have to enter in some notable activity. And we'll show you some ways that they can do that very quickly and easily. Let's add another question here. And now we're going to start adding some additional information that might be relevant. So maybe you need to make sure you're tracking expenses. So we could say expenses. Just give it a title. You can fill in more information, so you can give a description as to what you want the operators to be able to fill in here, as opposed to just a heading for them. We'll just leave it simple today for expenses. And for that one, a short answer should be fine, because all you're really trying to track here is probably a total dollar amount. You may want to list like breakfast and the dollar amount. You don't need a lot of space to be able to do that. And I'll show you why here in just a second. Let's make another one here. We'll also make this one a short answer. And for this one, we want to track our mileage. And this is just a place for people to put in their odometer reading. It's a real simple thing. They can just, when they bring up the form, they can say departing home, and they can come down here to the mileage, and they can just type in the mileage from their odometer. And then when they get on site and they note that in the log, they can just type in their new odometer reading. And now you know the beginning and ending mileage for that operator. We showed you this drop down here for how to use the tactical call signs. Let's add another field here, and maybe we have a variety of different radios that we're going to check out, some different equipment. So we're going to say we're going to check out our radio checkout. And for that, instead of a multiple choice, we're going to use either checkboxes, which is going to have an array. So they could have like one operator because maybe checking out, 2 or 3 radios. You can just check the radios off on that. If you wanted to use that as a multiple choice, that becomes radio buttons. So you can have a list of different items, and they just select the one that they're going to be making a note about. You could also set this as a drop-down menu, so it ends up presenting a lot more compressed. That works really nicely on mobile devices. I'll leave this for right now set to the check boxes so we can see what that looks like. And again, you get the options. So I'll just call this radio 1, radio 2, And all I'm doing is hitting the enter or return key, and it automatically adds another one, and I'll just add radio 3 for the additional one that's there. Okay, the last field that I want to add into this form is I want to add that the option for our operators to be able to take a picture of something. And this is incredibly helpful because let's say your operators are filling out their paper 214. Well, at the end of the exercise, they can take their phone, they can take a picture of that and upload it directly into the shared 214 as a way of handing in all of their documents all at one time. They can also say take a picture of their station. They can take a picture of some other thing that's going on there at their location and submit it in, and you can get the information to your net control station very quickly, very effectively. Now, the way to do that is you come back over here, you add another question, and in the drop down for this question, instead of any of these short answers, there's an option here for file upload. We'll go ahead and click on that. And this lets folks update or upload a file to their to this shared Google Drive. And you have to verify that you want to allow people to write files to your Google Drive in this particular folder. Now, one caveat, if you're using a business instance of the Google account, you need to do this on your personal drive. It will not work on the shared drives that come with a business account. So if you've got a free Google account or free Gmail account, this works just fine without any additional information. So I'll hit continue. We'll get a little spinny here, and I'll say upload a photo. It's going to allow us to do an upload. We can restrict it to specific file types using this little radio button here. We'll slide that over, and you can see we could add it to just be a document, an image, by checking the various different files here. I'm going to leave this pretty open right now, so folks are able to, actually, I'm going to go ahead and leave this set to just upload an image, maybe a PDF, we could say a document, and that's all we want right now for folks to be able to upload. So you can select multiples of these. You can set a maximum number of files that each operator can upload with each entry. I like to leave this set at 1 so that an operator can upload one thing and it gets tagged in an individual line within the spreadsheet. You'll see how that works here in just a second. And you can also set a maximum file size for each upload. You can limit this down pretty tightly. Since I'm going to share this out to a large group of people, I'm going to limit this down to 1 megabyte. Actually, I'll leave it set at 10 megabytes because then I can easily upload stuff myself. But you can, depending on where your file size and storage information, storage requirements are. So this is going to automatically create the folder for us, and we're going to leave this set to not required. You can add as many additional fields as is appropriate for your particular incident, for your particular activity that you're working on. And you can see this is pretty quick to be able to set all this information up. We just set the title, a little bit of instructions, and then we just create the number of questions that we want. We only have 2 that are required here. So now we've got our form created. Now we need a place for all of these data to come into. And if you scroll back up to the top on the Google form, right now we're in the tab that says questions, and this is where you're going to add in all those questions. The next one here is for responses. And as people start filling out the form, all of the data will automatically come into here. But this is a little bit of a pain to be able to work with. But what you can do is you can come over here where it says link to sheets. Just give that a click, and what it's going to do is it's going to create a new spreadsheet for you. It's going to use the same name that you created for your form, and it's going to put it in parentheses responses, and it's going to stick it in the same folder that on your Google Drive that you created the form in. So I'm going to say, okay, go ahead and create this for me. And let's look and see what that looks like. So I'm going to come back to my tab, which is my Google Drive. And if I refresh that browser window, you can see here's my 214 form that I just created. That's that Google form. It automatically created a Google Sheet for me, and I'll just go ahead and give that a click, and it populated the fields for what we have in our Google form. It did it automatically for us. I'll come back over to the Google Drive folder, and you can see there's also another folder here that got created, and this is 214 file responses, and this is where all of those attached images are going to go. They're all going to go in that one location. We'll look at how that all works here in just a second. So let me go back over to the form. So now we have our repository of where our data is going. Literally one click to be able to do. Super easy. Now we need to check in. Are there any settings we need to adjust before we send this out? We'll come over here to settings and we'll look and see. We'll look at the responses. We'll pull down. Nope, we don't have to collect email addresses. We're going to not limit them to one response. If you wanted to limit them to one, you can do that, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to allow folks to edit their submissions. And the reason you're not going to do that is because if you allow them to edit, then they must log in order to submit data for the form. And you don't have to have them log into a Google account in order to be able to use this. Presentation, there's not really a whole lot that you need, although there is an option here that says show link to submit another response. You do want to make sure that that is turned on, because as you'll see, when we submit some data with this form, it'll automatically give you a new link that you can just click on, and then you can submit another response. Come down here a little bit further. Form defaults, is there anything in here? We don't need to collect any email information. Question defaults, there's nothing else to add here. So really the only things to check is make sure in your presentation you've got that show the submit link for another item. And that's about all you need to do for that. Now we need to publish this form. So you do that by coming up here to the upper right. There's a great big button. You click publish. And it's going to go through and it's going to initially say, hey, I'm doing this on my main account, which is my company here, but I'm going to go manage and I'm going to say, nope, done. What I want is I want no respondents. Should be an option here. I guess it is that one. And responder view. And this is anyone with the link. You're going to come down here and make sure it's set to anyone that has the link is going to be able to submit this form. So we'll hit done. And that's going to make it so that anyone that we publish this link to is going to be able to submit our form. So we'll say publish. Doesn't look like much else has happened. Now we need our link to be able to send out. So I'm going to come up here to the top and there is a little link option. So copy link for respondents. We'll go ahead and click on that and it's going to generate a link for us. And you can see this is a pretty miserable thing to try and send to somebody. It's a great big long URL. So what we want is we want something that is human readable. We want a link that if an operator is out in the field and they forgot to be able to bookmark this, they didn't follow the steps we're going to show you in a minute as to how to add this onto their mobile phone, we wanted something that we could have net control, read out over the air pretty cleanly, pretty simply, and then they would be able to participate in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this long URL. I'm just going to click the copy button. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at a tool that I use. And this is one that's called URLs, or YOURLS. It's a URL shortener. There's a variety of them out there. This is an open source tool, and you can go to the page. If you have your own website, you can install it within your own website. You can install it in a subdomain of your main domain, or you can run it on just a local web server that you've got. So if you're trying to run this, say, over an Arden Mesh, you would be able to use tools like this. I have it installed in a subdomain, so let's see how that looks. So I've got the form copied here. I've got this URL copied. And I'm going to go over to my instance that I've already installed of URLs. And it looks like this once you're logged in and ready to go. Let me zoom this in a little bit easier so it's a little bit easier to see. The way that this tool works is really simple. You enter the URL that you want, so I'm just going to click in that field, and if the demo gods are with me, I'm going to paste, and that big, long, ugly URL gets pasted right in here. Now I can come over and I can create a custom short URL, and in this case, I'm just going to make it 214. Now, this copy of URLs is installed on my own subdomain. So this is installed on demo.wavetalkers.com. And I'll show you what this is going to do by when I click this button here that says shorten the URL, it's going to automatically add a new entry into my database for me. So here's my short URL of 214. And it even shows me what that shortened URL link is. So it's https://demo.wavetalkers.com/214. And I can test that by opening up my browser to a blank page. And I'm going to type in https://demo.wavetalkers.com/214. And you can do this at home and follow along with me. So we'll go ahead and put that in there. If somebody can paste that into the chat, that would be helpful. And this is what the 214 form looks like. I'll blow it up a little bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see. Here's our title of our form that we created and our instructions that we had to our operators. You can expand this out as needed. We'll scroll down a little bit here and we'll say what our tactical call sign is. I'm just going to click that. Here's our drop down. Now, in this case, I'm acting as net control, so I'll click the drop down here and select net control. For my call sign, it's not a required field, but I'll go ahead and add that in anyway, which is W6AH. I'm going to come down here for notable activity, and we're saying delivering WaveTalkers live, episode 126. Now, any expenses? I'm not going to add any expenses right now at this point. I'm not going to add any mileage because I'm currently sitting here. I could go ahead and add that in. I'm not going to check out. Well, let's go ahead and check out. We'll go ahead and check out radio number 2. And I'll show uploading a photo when I do this off of my mobile device. I've got very little information entered in here, but I'm going to go ahead and click the submit button. And you can see what this does is it pushes that information into our spreadsheet, which we'll look at here. And then there's a place for you to submit additional responses. If you click that link, it takes you right back into the form, and you could submit another link for that. Now, let me go back over and go look at that responses Google Sheet, and we can see that already multiple responses are coming in here in real time. So as folks are filling this out, we can see the tactical address that they're selecting. Several people have selected Charlie. They've put in there what their regular call sign is, notable activities, whether or not they've done expenses, so forth. All of that instantly comes in. I didn't have to read out that crazy long URL that was there. I just had to give you the shortened URL in this case, which is, and it's actually https://demo.wavetalkers.com/214. So yeah, that should be an HTTPS at this point. But there you go. You can see these data are all just streaming in here at this point. It works really, really well. Now, a couple of things that you can do with this. First of all, because this is a Google Sheet, you are able to share this document. I'll click the little drop down here. You're able to share this document with other folks. So I can click on share and I could add somebody, like maybe I need to send this to Dan and to David. And I also want to send this to Scott Reed, and we'll click on him right there. So now they have access to all that. I hit send, and he says, oh, hey, these guys are outside of your organization. That's fine. They can now bring up this spreadsheet on their mobile device, on their laptop, if they're set out at various different locations, and they can instantly see the information that is flowing in real time, which is absolutely just amazing. So let's show you how you can then have your operators set this up on their mobile devices so it's super clean and easy for them to work with. And I'm going to go now over to my overhead cam where I have both an Android device and I have my iPhone. So let's look at how you would set this up. We'll do it on Android first. What you can do here is you can just have them open up their web browser, and you're going to have them go to that URL. So they're just going to type that in. They're going to go to demo.wavetalkers.com. /214. And if the demo gods are with me, when I hit OK, I probably needed to put the HTTPS. There it goes. So it brings up the form for me, and it looks, on a mobile device, it works pretty simply. Everything looks about right. So what you want to do after they go to the form, they bring it up the first time, what you want them to do on Android is up here in the upper right, there's the little 3 dots. They can click on that, and there should be an option on here that says, down near the bottom, it says Add to Home Screen. Just click on that, and it's going to say, what do you want to call it? I'm going to leave it set to 214. You hit Add, and we'll say, yep, go ahead and add that to my home screen. And now when I return back to the home screen, I have a button right here, which I'm going to grab and I'm going to move it. And I'm going to move it onto the front page of my phone. And now I've got a one-click button. I can just hit that and it takes the operator directly to that 214 form, and they can fill it out. In this case, I'm going to say I'm at Aid Station Alpha. I am W6AH. Notable activity, still demo. That looks pretty good. I'm not going to add any expenses, but I'm going to come down here where it says upload a photo. I'll sit add a file. And it tells me the information about what I'm allowed to be able to add. Okay, that's good. And now I can either browse a file or I can upload it. I can drag it in here. I can go to my drive and I can go ahead and enter something that's in there. I can do recent information. I'll say go ahead and browse to browse a file. And it's going to ask me, do I want to allow Chrome to take pictures or record video? I'm like, yeah, sure, while I'm using the app. And I can either use my camera or I can upload something that's already there. I'm going to use my camera. And I'm just going to take a quick picture here of my setup. There we go. Grabs that picture, check, adds the information in there, and I'll hit submit. Gives me my ability to set a response real quick. Let me jump back over to the spreadsheet and we'll scroll down here. Here's that one that I still did, or I just entered, and you can see there's a little link over here, and if I just hover over, there's that picture that I just took in real time. So that works pretty well. Let's come over and show you how to do that on an iOS device. So on iOS, it's pretty much the same process. You open up your web browser of choice. In this case, I'm going to use Safari. I'm going to go up here to the top, and I'm just going to go to demo.wavetalkers.com /214. I'm going to hit go. That form shows up. Now on iOS, what you want to do is you want to tap on the Share, the little box at the bottom that has the arrow going up. You're going to tap on the Share icon. You're going to come here and you're going to scroll down in this list, and you should find an option there for Add to Home Screen. You go ahead and touch that. Again, it asks you what do you want to call it. I'm going to say, yeah, put it as 214. And I'm just going to, once again, just like I did on the Android, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drag it over to the front page of my phone. Oops, I don't want it in that folder. I want it right on the front page. And so now I've got a one-tap button to be able to fill out the form here. Once again, I can enter in my tactical address. In this case, I'm going to be Bravo. I'm going to again say I'm W6AH. Notable activity. Having fun. Come down here. I can upload a photo now on iOS. It looks pretty similar. So to do the upload a photo, you can again do browse. And in this case, I'm going to take another picture. I'm going to flip my camera over because I'm going to do selfie style. take a quick picture and use that. It attaches that image. Oh, there's something else I wanted to show you while I'm here. Let me come back up before I go into this other bit. So notable activities, having fun. You can tap on that. And in fact, I'm gonna delete that, because another way you can add text in, because you have a mobile device here, you have all the capabilities of this device. So I'm gonna just tap the little microphone down here in the bottom, and I'll just dictate what I want to go in. Showed up at aid station Alpha, made contact with the officer. Their name is Jane Smith. Their number is 555-1212. Headed back to base. So all that information automatically got entered in. I could make some text adjustments if there's anything that the phone didn't pick up correctly, but I'm just going to say done. I'll come down to the bottom, hit submit. If I can tap it, there we go. That information goes in as well. I'll jump back over to the field. Here is that aid station Bravo entry that I've got. I have this longer bit of information. I can double click on that and I see all of the detailed information as need be here. I've got all of my stuff for mileage, and if I hover over this, there's that image that I just took while I was in here. Let me go ahead real quick, and I'm going to come back here to my Google Drive. Again, we only have our 214. This is the form if we need to make any edits to it. This is our spreadsheet. Here is that file responses. If I go into that folder, you can see it's got an extra little upload folder. And here are all of those images that were just uploaded by all the different folks who submitted the data in the form. They're all collected here in one spot, and you can access them from the spreadsheet. Let me come back up to the Google form itself. And I noted here's where we created our questions. And I said under the responses, the data would automatically flow into here as people are filling in the information. So here you can see it even does a little summarization for you of the data. So you can see who's submitting at which different call sign, notable activity. It kind of groups everything. Love that. Need a pizza. Please send pizza. Wonderful. All that's great. We'll scroll down a little bit more. Here's expenses. Here's the mileage information, radio checkout. A lot of people checked out radio number 3. Here's the upload a photo, and you can get to all of that information there as well. So all this, and you can get to the individual questions. You can still see how people fill those out, or you can look at individuals who filled out the information. So it works really, really well. The way that we've deployed this for various different exercises is we really will, before the event, before the exercise, we'll create the 214, we'll make the shortened URL with it, and we'll distribute that out at our pre-race or our pre-event meeting. We'll distribute that out to everybody. We'll have them go in and make sure they create that shortcut directly on their mobile phone so they're able to quickly get to the form. We then have them fill out the form at least one time, and oftentimes we'll have them submit in the activity. We'll ask them for what their carrier for their mobile device is, and that way we have who their carrier is in case something went down. We would then be able to send out, say, a text message to them or so forth. But you have them practice that. Then when they get out in the field, they're able to fill out and use the form throughout the day. Maybe they radio into net control with a short, brief message, and then they can give additional details using this form. And net control can have a copy of this right there. All they need is a laptop or a computer that's set up, connected onto the internet, and they'll receive that data. Likewise, any of the rest of your command team would be able to just open that spreadsheet up and see up to the minute what information is coming in from each different operator. I've been really impressed with how successful this has been. We're going to wrap up here in just a second. Before we do, should remind folks that we do have an Amazon shop that's set up. We have a lot of different tools that are up there, including the GPSs, the dongle GPSs, the B-Link computers that we use for our gateways. There's a lot of portable gear and deployment gear that's up there. We spend a lot of time showing, digging through Amazon to find the stuff that we find that we use all the time and that really works, and we put those links up there for everyone else. We also have our Morse code course, which you can get to at courses.wavetalkers.com. Before we go around and check in with everyone, let me jump over to the Windows machine and we'll check in on any of the check-ins that have come in. I've not been checking these, so it may take a couple of, look at that, we've got check-ins coming in from all over the world. We'll download those and we'll map these and see where everyone is coming in from as that's going on. This may take just a minute or two for all of these to fully flow in. So we've used this particular tool now on multiple Baker to Vegas races. We've used it at several different marathons here in Ventura County. We used it as part of some of the deployments that we did for some of the recent fires and for some of the statewide exercises to track our information. Now, you may be curious, actually, while I'm checking these, one of the things that you do have access to when you're working with, let me see, is it on this one? No, it's on this one here. I got to go over to there. When you're working with the data, one of the challenges is getting these data then directly into a form that if you need to fill out the official 214 form that you need to be able to do. So what I've done in those situations is I've made a copy of the data and I get rid of the extra fields here. So I'm only looking at the timestamp field and I'm looking at that notable activity because that's the activity that needs to go into the 214 form. If you then go up to the file menu on here and which one is it? Is it share? No, it's download. You download it. You can download this as a CSV file. That CSV file you can open up in another spreadsheet. Make sure that you've got only the data that you need for your notable activities and that you have for that date and time stamp. Then once you're done with that, I'm going to hit another check and show you how to do this in Winlink. We got more check-ins coming in. One of the fun things about Winlink is that to save bandwidth, when you have a lot of files coming down, it'll only download batches of them as they're coming in. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. There we go. Okay, so within Winlink, if you do create a new message and you go to select templates, you go to the standard templates. Inside of your standard templates, you have your ICS USA forms. Click on that. And there is a ICS-214, an activity log, which looks very similar to the 214 that we submitted, that we showed you earlier. There's also a 214A, which is an individual activity form. So this is what your individual operators would be using. I'll go ahead and show you that one. Go ahead and double click this form. It opens up in your browser. And one of the things that you can do is you can load all ICS-214A data. And when you use that, you can import that CSV file and it'll flow the data into these the timestamps, and then the major events is your activities. But that's the way you get this in. You have to export the data out of the Google Sheet. Make sure you only have those two columns of data, your timestamp and your notable activity. Make it a CSV file, and then you can come here and you can import that data right in through here. and it'll all flow into your one form. It works really pretty well, and then you fill out the top the way that you normally would fill out the top of any message. Let me come back and do another quick check, see if we've gotten any more check-ins that have flown in. It looks like we've gotten them all. So let's go ahead and map those out. Let me close this. We'll see where our check-ins have come in. I'm going to click the little globe icon, and I've got it selected on Winlink check-in V5. If you missed our mapping episode, our last episode we did, episode number 125, we showed in great detail how to work with the mapping tools here. I'm going to come down here and hit display map. I've got this set to a filter of just showing me the current 24 hours, and you can see we've got, looks like Terry Z01HOG is joining us in New Zealand. We have operators here in Sydney. Oh, there's one up in the middle of Australia. That's a new one. Excellent. This is Franz joining us. We've got a station here in Sweden joining us. Let's zoom in on North America. We'll zoom in a little bit. We'll click the right click and drag. Here's our map showing us of all of the pins that have come in. Now, if you've got a blue pin, you've sent this in via RF. If your pin is in purple, then we can see that you sent that in as a telnet or using the internet, which is fine to be able to do for these exercises. We'll just roll over each of these so we can see folks who did get their check-ins that have come in. Really quickly, make sure we got everybody. I know we got a lot of people that usually come in on this Pacific Northwest. Let's zoom in a little bit there. Right click and drag. And then we got here in the several up there in the Portland area. Northern California, Utah, several up here in the Sacramento area. Roll over a lot of those. Several down here. Hit Utah, make sure we got that one. And
hey Chris, when you're done, go back to that Australia one. I think he's a new visitor to the show.
Oh, excellent. Is he in the Zoom?
He's in the YouTube.
Oh, he's in the YouTube. Okay, awesome.
Can you scroll back over to Australia when you get a chance?
Yeah, sure. Let me zoom back out. And I got to go this way. Can't go across the Pacific because the map doesn't wrap around like that. This pin right here, that would be Victor Kilo 4 Golf Echo Oscar.
Yes, that's Darian Archer from Northwest Queensland, Australia. First time joining live.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, I love Queensland. I spent a lot of time in Townsville working on the Great Barrier Reef, working out of the Australian Institute of Marine Science. We were doing chemical communication work out there on the Great Barrier Reef. It was, I love Queensland. Did make it up to the Daintree. Beautiful, beautiful country there. Really, really love Australia. All right, so that's kind of the quick walkthrough of all of those bits and pieces. Let me bring the guys up real quick, and we'll see what kind of thoughts folks have. Let's start with David, W0DHG, as I'm bringing folks up. What kind of thoughts do you have from today?
That's it's a great example of, how to be flexible in the field. We've used this, as you mentioned, for a number of different events, and it's like simplified my life so much as opposed to having to carry on a clipboard and piece of paper or have to go back and figure out what did I do, when did I do it, and you have to train yourself to remember to pull out the device and log things as they're happening. But it is really an awesome tool to be able to collect data and information about the important things that are going on in the field.
Thanks. Dan, NR6V, what kind of thoughts you got today?
I've seen you do this on several occasions, but never seen how you put it together. So very good, very interesting for me. And my brain's going into different places that this could be used. With our fire department ACS group, we might get called upon to supplement their dispatch system. And we could build a form and use our mesh to pass it to the different bureaus around the city in order to pass dispatch information should the radio system go down. So a lot of good uses for it.
Yeah, I see a question that just came in the chat. Somebody asked, "How is the timestamp populated?" It is just automatically handled as when the record is created and somebody hits submit. The time, date, and timestamp is something that just comes in automatically and is automatically entered into the field. That works incredibly well. Scott, I know you've been monitoring the chat and everything. And what kind of thoughts have you got on this?
Well, Chris, and David brought up a good point. When I deploy with my federal team, I usually have a little book that it's a Right and Rain ICS-214 that I track everything down on. But I can now just see a real easy way that I could set one of these up for myself before I push out and link it to my Google Drive, and I can just walk around with my phone and input information in versus trying to carry a pen and paper around to try to do this. And at the end of my op period, I can just print this out and hand it in to make this really seamless. So I'm not juggling lots of different paperwork, and I can see the advantage of creating a equipment checkout form as well to very easily do all this.
When we first set this up to do this at Baker to Vegas, one of the challenges that we were trying to deal with, we had a lot of traffic that was coming into the net control station that we were operating at. And so one of the things that we did was we had one of our scribes that was sitting there helping us with net control. We had them sit there with a laptop, and as calls were coming in over the radio, they were just listening to the calls and they were using the form to key in the data that was coming in over the form while the main net control operator at the time was dealing with the traffic coming in. So it allowed us to really capture all the information, and because it became shared on the data output side, all of the other areas where the additional command centers were set up all instantly knew all of what was going on. It worked so well. Matter of fact, this has worked so well for me that I use this with my own business when I'm working with clients. I basically use the form that you saw there, although I don't create the checkout information, but I track my mileage, I track my expenses that I'm working on with various different clients. My one for my business, I actually have drop downs for each of the different clients, so I know how to handle all of the billing for each operator. I've worked with teams that are developing various different projects and they need to log time. It just is so easy to be able to create this and use one of these tools to be able to do your data collection.
Chris. Sorry, go ahead. Oh,
no, go
ahead. Darian from Northwest Queensland just said that we use Google Forms a lot for amateur radio club management. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's an incredible tool, and it's one of these hidden things that most people just don't know about. You click on your Google Drive, you click that little new button, and it's right there, Google Forms. Go in, create some forms, play with them, figure out how they work, and you can review this episode as much as you need to. If you're here inside of the Zoom, hang around. We're going to do the after party here. We'll open up the mics and take questions. If you ever want to join us for one of the after parties, go ahead and join. Go to our website at wavetalkers.com. There's a join us link on every single page. It's usually down at the bottom. Fill the form out. We send out one email each week, and it has the link to be able to join us in our live studio audience. So we have a bunch of people watch us live on YouTube. If you are watching us there, you can like the video and then make sure you leave us a comment. Let us know how you've used these forms and how you keep track of the information. With that, we'll say 7-3 to everybody. We are not going to be on for the next couple of weeks. We've got a variety of different activities. David and I are going to be out at Baker to Vegas this coming week, and then we've got a marathon to support the following week. We'll probably have some hangouts. So if you're on our mailing list, then check your mail later in the week, and we'll probably do some hangouts. Oftentimes on the drive back from Baker to Vegas, we usually get some access to the internet, and we're able to join on to a hangout. So keep an eye on that on your email, and otherwise we'll say 7-3, and we'll see you guys in a few weeks. Oops, wait a minute. Don't want to cancel a meeting. I want to end the live stream. Yay, that would be better.